Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to part 2 of my analysis of this final table, the 10k Super Millions on GG. This was streamed on the 16th of August 2022. As I said, this is hand number 2. We're going to get into it right now. So in this spot then, it folds around to the button with Jack 10 offsuit, and this player actually goes ahead and folds. So I wanted to run this to see, is this any good? And if it is, what kind of hands then should we be opening instead? So here's the button opening range, and you can see Jack 10 offsuit opening about 22% of the time. Again, I've said this before, like you could run it for even higher accuracy. I'm running these HRC sims to a convergence indicator of about 5. And then in terms of abstractions, I'm sure you could do even more abstractions, but really what we're looking for here is sort of the overall sort of shape of the range and which kind of hands sort of are in there all the time, and which are sort of the fringe ones that are not going to be making much money by opening here. So Jack 10 offsuit is actually a pretty good fold in this spot. You can see Queen 10 offsuit folds 100% of the time, but this range is really tight, only 20% of hands. So the real reason for this, if we click through to our trusty bubble factors and risk premiums, there's an 8 big blind stack now. There's 5-handed, 8 big blind stack, and the button's risk premium against the blind. So he's the currently in third in chips, and he's opening into the 2 chip leaders, so the guy in first and the guy in second. So if we take a look at our risk premium against the small blind, 20.9%, and against the big blind, 19.2%. So these numbers are they're just huge. And what this means is if we open too many hands, we're going to have to fold a lot of them when we get 3-bet. We just can't find that extra 19-20% equity in this spot. So if we do go for a raise, let's say the small blind 3-bets, then we look at our strategy. We can't actually call any hands. We just go for a 4-bet jam or a fold. Now, I only set this up to have 4-bet jams, keep things simple. You could, if you wanted to, extend this a little bit, allow small 4-bets. I think that would be quite nice. But I wanted to keep things simple to begin with, just to give just a few options: fold, call, and jam. Now, if we take a look at the big blinds 3-bet, if we then have a look at what we can do there, we're folding a lot in this spot as well, folding 12.8% of that original 20%. So that's like just over 60% of our range we're having to fold versus a big blind 3-bet. In this against the small blind, let's just have a quick look. 13.7, so even more. So we're folding 65, almost 70% of our range against a 3-bet. Against a small blind. Our risk premium is higher against a small blind. He has the bigger stack, and so we have to just overfold in this spot. So when you know that, it kind of makes sense to only open 20% of hands in this spot. If you open like a traditional 30 to 40 big blind chip EV range, which is like 50% of hands, you're just going to get absolutely crushed and absolutely punished. So this is why it's really important in these situations to understand when there is a short stack, when you're third in chips and you're opening into the 2 stacks that cover you, you have to massively tighten up your range. So if we go back to the final table, the button does fold, and you can see the small blind now takes on the big blind. And this is where I think it gets interesting. This is why I focused on is Jack 10 off and open? That's a very sort of yes or no question. But also we looked at the range, and we looked at why you have to tighten up your range significantly in this spot. But what we can do now, as I mentioned in the last video, is rather than just go, okay, is Jack 10 offsuit a raise or a fold? Oh, it's a fold, cool, let's move on to the next hand. That's a complete waste of a sim. You've run this sim, let's try and learn from it as well. So when it's first versus second in chips, some really interesting stuff happens. And I really encourage you, when you do run your own sims, to sort of explore what could happen. The what ifs, the different scenarios that could happen in this situation. So this is the small blind strategy, and it looks really bizarre. I'm not sure if I've ever seen anything like this. We don't want to be limping when you cover the guy in second and their risk premium is super high against you. Let's just have a look at it. Big blind against small blind, 23%, right? You don't want to be doing any limping. You want to be applying maximum pressure straight away. So against the raises, you can see the big blind does a lot of folding. Some hands you wouldn't expect in a sort of a chip EV environment, some suited hands as well for sure. Now, if you look at the kind of hands that want to 3-bet or to jam, you can see even pocket kings doesn't want to induce here. The last thing kings wants to do is go for a 3-bet, face a jam, and call it off first versus second. So what ends up happening is we get this lot more passive play from the guy in second against the chip leader. And so the only real hand you want to induce is aces, and maybe some ace-king suited as well. Back to the final table. One final thing we could look at is what is Mario's jamming range? Does he actually have a min-raise range as well? Lots of questions to ask. Let's take a look. All right, so this is Mario's range then in the cutoff. He gets to jam a lot. You can see 22.4% of hands. And there is a little bit of min-raising going on as well. So queens plus ace-king suited. And actually doing some raise folding with these offsuit ace-x hands. If you want to have a look at this, you can see... when we do face a jam, we are going to be letting go of the ace 2, 3, and 4, but calling it off with ace 8 and ace 6. Now, something you could say is, oh yeah, but hang on a minute, what about the opening size here? Yes, okay, in HRC, I've set it up so that everyone's opening 2.3x. I've got a default like pre-flop opening size for the stack size we wanted to look at originally, which was sort of 36, approaching 40 big blinds. So that's why it's set up for 2.3x. The actual solution, he's probably going to want a min raise, so you could go in and edit that for sure. That would be absolutely fine. So that's going to wrap things up for this video. Pretty interesting. We have to tighten up our opening range when we're raising into the 2 players that cover us when there's a short stack and we're only 5 left on the final table. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop me a comment down below, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.